Meeting of the Costa Mesa Sanitary District Board of Directors to order. If you'd all please rise and join me in saluting our flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jim?
Please join me in praying to our Lord. Lord, please keep everyone safe during the holidays, and may the Costa Mesa Sanitary District continue its positive direction. Thank you.
Good job. Okay, Madam Clerk, the roll call.
Director Arthur Perry.
Here.
Director Robert Uten.
Here.
Secretary Arlene Schaefer. Here. Vice President James Ferryman.
Present.
President Michael Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any announcements or late communications, Scott?
Yes, Mr. President, there is one late communications that was emailed to us by Mr. Mosier. Those comments are before you tonight. We did respond back to Mr. Mosier regarding the minutes, as well as the questions he had regarding the wastewater combination cleaning truck. Regarding the two ordinances, District Councilor Alan Burns will address those issues when it's time for him to talk about those items.
Ceremonial matters. We do have some ceremonial matters that I will take care of. At our employee luncheon today, Scott presented time service pins for certain folks, and I'm very pleased to present Secretary Arlene Schaefer with her 20-year pin. Wow. Congratulations.
Nice.
And this next pin I'm going to present, I think I was in grammar school or high school at this time.
They moved you back a couple grades.
Several times. But this is really an honor and a privilege for me to present to a guy who I look to for leadership, and he's just a good guy. 30-year pin to Vice President James Ferryman. 30 years. And then as the rookie, I guess I'll also represent my 10-year pin to me. 10 years including my prior service, I assume. So anyway, congratulations to all. Public comments. Time set aside for anyone in the audience to speak.
Wait a second, Mike.
Yeah.
I think I'm about ready to return the favor here. We have a little token of our appreciation for your service. This is Mike Schaefer, President, in the years. It's a very handsome
Thank you, Jim.
plaque, as you can see, and you certainly deserve it. You worked your butt off the last 4 years, and we're very proud of you.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you.
Congratulations.
I have a request that you put it in your office and move some of that baseball stuff around.
No way. No way. Thank you. Oh. Thanks, Jim.
Read what it says on the back.
It says honor award plaque. America's something.
Well, they erased the other stuff.
Did they erase the other stuff? We won't go there. Public comments. Anyone from the audience wishing to speak on an item that's not on the agenda that's within our jurisdiction? All right, no one coming forward under public comments. We'll go to the consent calendar.
Move for approval of the consent calendar as presented.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion.
Well, I do have one question. The approval of the director's compensation and reimbursement, it didn't look like it was complete. At least
Thank you, Bob. I forgot. Yeah.
Take a look at it, but
You know how we usually have two, one for mileage and reimbursement, then one for our meetings? They were both the same item. They were both the mileage.
and I don't think all the directors
Yeah,
were noted on the particular electronic agenda that I saw.
Do we need to hold approval on that item? till the next meeting, or can we go
Well,
forward?
you might want to check it, if you can, in later in the meeting, and because I don't have a crying towel for those that might not get their check.
Oh, I don't think that'll be a problem.
You were the only one left off.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the consent calendar. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Scott, D1?
Thank you, Mr. President. Actually, items 1 through 3, I'm going to turn over to our district clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board. As you know, we recently had an election, and before you are the certified official election results, which we have a successful reelection of Secretary Arlene Schaefer, Director Robert Uten, and President Michael Schaefer. And we would just like to congratulate you and ask you to please receive and file this document.
When do we get our checks? No, I'm just, you know what I mean? Our candidate statements are based, I don't expect you
That
to
takes
know.
a couple months to have the county take care of that.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
All right. The record should, it does reflect that Bob Uten was in third place. We want to make sure. Okay.
It doesn't reflect that.
All right, item 2.
Thank you, Mr. President. As per our operations code, it is now appropriate that the board select and nominate a change of officers. And we just thank you, President Schaefer, for your 4 years of service and look forward to serving with you.
Thank you. Okay, so then let's take them in order.
Yes, please.
Okay, President, do we have a nomination for President?
I'd like to move that we nominate, I'd like to nominate Director Thurman.
Okay,
I'll second it.
motion and a second. Any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. For Vice President, I will nominate Director Uten for Vice President.
I'll second it.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. For Secretary, do we have a motion for Secretary?
I'll move Arlene Schaefer for secretary.
And I'll second that. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay? Next item?
Just one question. Have we eliminated from we're not going to have assistant secretary, is that correct?
That's what our resolution's going to
Okay.
take care of?
Okay.
All right, then at this point, I would be more than happy to relinquish the gap. Can we switch seats at the next meeting? Is that okay with you, Mr. President?
Absolutely.
Okay. It's my honor to relinquish the hammer
Thank
to
you, sir.
President Jim Farragut.
Okay.
Those are different items that he's requested to
Yeah.
speak of. D5, G1, and G2.
Okay, we haven't got to.
Yeah, we got to those.
Mr. President, you're also going to want to appoint your representative to OCSD and to the other agencies that we sit on.
Okay. How do we technically do that? I mean,
Nominate and
do we have a
I'll
list of all?
I'll nominate Jim Fairman to OCSD in a continuing process.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I'd like,
Opposed?
no, go ahead. I'd like to nominate Bob Uten as his fill-in.
Second that.
Is that the correct word?
alternate.
Alternate.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
SARFA? Your SARFA representative? The Santa Ana River.
Oh, yeah.
Sarfa?
I nominate Art Perry to be our representative to that body.
I second it.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I'll nominate Jim Ferryman to be the alternate to the Santa Ana River Flood Protection Agency.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Is that it?
Is that it? Okay.
Oh, there's ISDOC.
Okay, so we're down to D3, item 3.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the board, before you is the proposed 2019 meeting and holiday closure calendar for the district, which includes the board study sessions, regular meetings, liaison committee meetings, and citizen advisory committee meetings as well. I'd like to inform you of a few items regarding the CAC meetings. At its December 12th meeting, the committee discussed changing its currently monthly meeting schedule to now meet quarterly. There were several members of the committee who were not present at the meeting to vote on the matter, so the item was continued to the January 9th CAC meeting. At that time, we will then update the calendar if necessary.
Does this calendar reflect the quarterly?
This only reflects the January 9th meeting.
Okay.
The board meeting schedules as well for September has been moved up from the fourth Thursday to the third Thursday, as that would conflict with the CSDA annual conference that the full board normally attends during that fourth week.
Is this the same one that you sent us earlier when we looked at the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, so sounds good.
And the November and December board meetings have also been moved up from the fourth week to the third week due to holiday schedules. At this time, I'm open for any questions.
Okay, and the December one was wrong when we got it, and you changed it?
Yes.
Okay.
Does,
Because you had it on a Monday or a Wednesday.
The study session was on a Monday, and that was an error on my part, so it's on
Okay.
a Tuesday.
Okay. That was the only correction I saw.
Thank you.
Are there any other comments on the,
does the changing of the schedule for CAC require board approval?
No.
That's an executive decision?
You know, I attended that meeting, and the chair really would like to go to a quarterly meeting.
Yeah,
And
but I'm just
several-
saying that by policy, do we have to,
We gave them the decision on when they wanted to meet.
oh, okay.
So they would, I don't think that requires any board action.
And I think that's a wise move, too, because they were busy in the beginning. I think quarterly will keep them busy also.
Yeah, it was curious to hear some of the comments, especially from the vice chair, about how they had a duty to meet every month and advise us. I just think that they needed to be reminded that they're not giving us items to make decisions on. They should be looking at programs and giving us their opinion. For them to meet monthly, I think puts a lot of stress on our staff, and they really should go to a quarterly. I think from the very beginning, we talked about quarterly meetings when we were looking at forming that, so just, and I'm gonna go to the January meeting.
I have a question when you get finished.
And
Now, when we first started this, we have half of them selected for a year?
Correct.
And half selected for 2 years. When is the change of the first year?
The change for the first year participants will end, and the new set will begin April 1st of next year.
So when, do we have a plan to move forward with the?
We'll submit applications out in February to solicit for any participants who would like to join the committee, and then we will present those applications to the board for selection.
And how many will that be, like? how
We
many?
have 6.
6, okay.
I had a question on the monthly one-on-ones where 2 of us meet with Scott. Are those going to be added, or we haven't formulated that?
Those are not included in this calendar because this is the public meeting calendar, so that will be a completely separate calendar that I will provide to
be
the board.
distributed to us, so.
Correct.
Thank you.
I had a question.
Orlene?
Are we going to continue with NISDOC? And nobody appointed me back to go to NISDOC.
You already voted this
It has to be put on the agenda.
Well, it's a continuing appointment. That one, because she was
She was
elected as
already
an
elected
officer,
to.
you're already
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And I think that's like with SDRMA and CSDA, we're elected to those positions, so those don't come before us for any kind of.
Correct.
But ISDOC, by the fact, correct me if I'm wrong, but by the fact that we did a resolution supporting you to be on the board, that automatically, we can't tell you, no, you can't be on there.
Well, I'm on it from CSDA anyway.
That's true. And I'm on there for OCOG, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep, is that,
That's correct.
okay,
Okay.
good to go.
Any other comments?
I'd like, if it's okay, I'd like to be one of those that meets with Peter and, you know, your little group when you two meet.
Oh, the ad hoc committee?
Pardon?
The ad hoc committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay? We can't have three people, so one of us would have to leave.
Does anybody have a desire?
Well, I would like to continue. I think, and at this point, I think with the work that we're having them do, Bob and I should continue at least for another couple months, because I think we're kind of wrapping it up anyway.
Well, I think the critical time will be when the municipal service review is being done by LAFCO. If the status quo holds with our district in Mesa, I think that will kind of conclude the whole need for the ad hoc committee.
I would like to continue on the ad hoc, and by virtue of the fact that you're already on the ad hoc for the 75th,
Yeah,
shouldn't we spread it out a little more?
okay.
I think it's a critical time right now that you guys stay. I think it's wiser that you stay. And until it's concluded, then the ad hoc committee will be dissolved.
Right.
And it's not just a short period of time, I believe.
Well, do we need to take action to?
No,
Okay, let's move along.
Number 4.
Item D4, Citizens Advisory Committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is just your overview of the December 12th, 2018 meeting. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have a question or comment?
I'm just curious, do all of them attend usually every meeting, or?
Yes, I think everyone, for the most part, we might have one that missed, but not, maybe just one meeting, but they've been
And then,
consistent.
how many board members have been attending? 1 or 2?
It's either been, one or two. It's either been Secretary Schaefer or Director Schaefer.
Okay.
I get the feeling, Scott, maybe in Nolani, that they like having a board member there just to bounce things off us. Again, my only disappointment with the CAC is I think a lot of them feel like they're telling us what we need to do. And that's not what I envisioned that committee to be. I thought it was more for them to look at what we want to do and give us their opinion, not tell us you should be doing this, or they almost feel like they're approving things that we're doing. And I don't think that's appropriate.
well, they feel when they make a recommendation that should hold.
Exactly.
And it's really, we're trying to explain to them that we are the final decision.
Yeah, I think they lose sight of that, don't you, at those meetings?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we ought to have a sit-down with them and get them educated here as to what we expect.
Well, maybe we should reread to them or with them the purpose of the committee. It's written down somewhere.
The guide rules.
Yeah.
And maybe that would be a way to introduce them or to get them to look at doing a quarterly meeting, saying,
What I heard, we did get some good out of some of their suggestions that have emerged, so.
Oh, I
It's not
think-
like they're just sitting there, and we're not appreciating.
oh, no, I think they seem to be very attuned to what they're looking at. I don't look at them as being flippant or anything. The work they did on the districting, or in the
Oh, yeah,
divisions,
yeah.
I mean, they deserve a lot of credit for the work that they all did on that. It was really good.
Yeah, they worked hard. But at the same time, they're disappointed when we don't follow their ground rules.
Yeah.
Well, at some point, one of us or two of us need to sit down with them and hash things out, and, we don't want to alienate them, and,
No, but I think even if we just give them our policy or what you know, they
What
should
their
get-
purpose is,
the
yeah.
purpose, they hold that crap, and that, you know, and underline certain
And then they can
comments.
follow up, they can get back to us with questions on.
Sure, and if they have any questions or comments, they're welcome to come to these meetings and talk to us.
I
Scott,
think
could
that,
you make that happen?
Giving them policies, our policies?
Why-
you
The
just
the
review-
reasons for the formation of.
Yeah, we have a CAC handbook, and they all received that handbook. We could remind them to read it again.
Well,
But they all,
but maybe the chair could go over it with them.
sure.
well,
Yeah, we
that's,
could
that
do
would be my
They've
suggestion.
only been meeting for a portion of a year, you know, and so they're still feeling their way along, and we're still feeling our way along. I think we have an opinion of what they're doing.
My suggestion would be the same as what you're saying, maybe have Jim meet with Mike Carey, who's really reasonable and a good chairman, just explain to him so he can explain it, instead of us explaining it to the whole
Right.
group.
Yeah.
You know, that's a better approach.
I don't think it's like us bulldozing them or.
No, not at all.
You know, that's not our intent, you know, we want to have, communication with them. And we value it, so.
Yes, and also keep in mind that as Nolani mentioned to me, that we will have new committee members beginning of the year. We could do an orientation again with all the committee members when the new ones come on board.
That's a good
That's
idea.
another option too.
In April.
Yes.
That's good.
Okay, well, let's move along those lines. Number 5, consider acquiring the wastewater truck from what is it, Haker Equipment Company for $411,364. That's a lot of money.
Yeah, they're not cheap, that's for sure. Thank you, Mr. President. So back on December 11th, we discussed this item at your study session. Staff informed the board about the 2 wastewater clean trucks we have that had not been very reliable. In fact, as we speak today, they were both down. So it's been very frustrating with staff to try to achieve our cleaning goal of cleaning 67% of the entire system within 1 year. So staff on December 11th presented to you the options, including the alternatives, explained to you how the RFP was created, how we scheduled demonstrations, and how we came up with the recommendation of purchasing the vehicle with Haker. You might recall you had staff, Joel Ortiz, our senior operator of these equipment, explain to you some of the safety features of the Haker by pushing a button, having that equipment transfer case going in effect, which is a lot safer than doing it manually. So there were some nice safety features. At that meeting on December 11th, the board directed staff to bring back information about extended warranties, which we have provided you in your staff report. As you see in the staff report, extended warranty for 3 years can range from $1,800 to $6,700 for a total of $8,500. For a 5-year extended warranty, that can up to $17,000. And I do believe that's. I'm trying to think if that's. I do believe that's a year. They also directed staff to find out more information about compressed natural gas wastewater combination clean trucks. Even though we're not required by AQMD to comply with that rule because we have less than 15 vehicles in our fleet, the board thought it was still a good idea because one day we might be under CNG regulations. So we did contact several agencies. Staff contacted Newport Beach about their CNG trucks. They don't like them very well. They said that their storage capacity is very short. Their water tanks are smaller, so that means they have to fill up sooner. They said it was very inconvenient and inefficient. Also in your staff report, I think I also mentioned why even the dealer doesn't recommend CNG. There's some complications. Most notably the fuel consumption. You only get about 6 hours of fuel capacity in the CNG. So if you're at the end of the day and all of a sudden an emergency comes up, you're going to have to go fill that up first, then go to the emergency. So there's some concerns regarding that. We also found out that we found out about Vector trucks. What our other agencies are agencies using the Vectors, and that isn't. We're finding that Vector is a widely used vehicle in the wastewater industry. It seems that that's the type of manufacturer that most wastewater professionals prefer, but it's not to say that they don't have complications either. Newport Beach just bought a new Vector truck, and they had problems with the hose reel. It was too low and hitting the driveway, and they said it took them forever to get that fixed. Also, we heard from Irvine Ranch Water District they weren't very pleased with Haker's customer service. So there are some issues with the Vector, but we just believe they're just less than maybe we see with VACL or VanCon. One also bring to your attention is that the following day we were presenting this to the Citizens Advisory Committee. They also suggested staff to bring back extended warranties, but one decision they made was we didn't really think of was actually leasing a truck. So if you lease one for 5 years and turn it in, you get a new truck every 5 years. Which might not be a bad option. Only thing is we have to look at the finances. You're making payments every year than just one big lump sum. And Haker does do that. They do provide lease options where it's just like leasing a car at a dealership. You're leasing for 5 years. When the lease is up, you turn it in, you get a new truck. So there's that option. If you want us to look further than that, we can do that. Otherwise, staff is recommending the purchase of the Vector from Haker for $411,364, and we're also seeking direction from the board if you want us to include the extended warranty as well.
What was the cost for that?
$17,000 for 5 years.
5 years, yes.
I think that's a wise idea. If the warranty covers the whole truck, is it limited to a certain area of the truck?
It says it's a 5-year bumper-to-bumper warranty.
I think for $17,000, we're paying a lot for repairs right now. And that would be my suggestion, is to add that to the total cost of the vehicle.
What is your opinion?
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic idea. I do want to mention though I do believe the dealership that said that the 5-year extended warranty on the Vector body might not be necessary. I don't think he recommends that. So maybe we can do a 3-year extended warranty on the Vector body and then a 5-year extended warranty on the chassis engine. So that'll really cut down your price. You're talking about maybe $10,000 instead of $17,000.
It seems like you're having mechanical troubles with the.
Right.
You're not having equipment.
Right.
You're having mechanicals with a 5-year.
And they're
truck.
relatively new, too.
Yeah.
Well, for us to have an emergency and not have a vehicle, we could be charged hundreds of thousands of dollars, versus a small incidental fee.
Yeah, on that lease option with the, they include the warranty because it's still their vehicle, I'm sure.
Right.
I just think I've never been a big fan of leasing things, because I think you get into entanglements, and what if at the end of that lease, they decide that they don't want to give you another lease? Maybe they don't, so owning the truck is my preference.
And usually they set a set amount of operational hours, or with a regular vehicle, you get 12,000, 15,000 miles, and anything you go over that, they're going to cost you. Now for heavy duty vehicles, they really track you by the hours, operation hours, and they might charge us more if we go over those hours. So that's the risk you have with leases.
Did Newport Beach have the warranty option? And
Didn't ask them that question.
they did have problems.
They had problems with Vector, yes.
Yeah.
Did you
Well,
ever check?
Vector, in the industry, Vector is synonymous with every kind of sewer cleaning truck.
Yes,
They're
correct.
they're basically the Cadillac. And
Correct.
this would come out of the asset replacement fund, which is presently at $1.431 million.
Correct.
So we have a fund that's being saved for these kinds of purchases, but
I think, Jim Mosier, you have
Comment.
a comment you wanted to share?
Yeah, thank you, President Ferryman and members of the board. My name is Jim Mosier. And harking back to your comment on the previous item, the purpose of the Citizens Advisory Committee, my understanding was one of its purposes was to solicit more public input on the items that come before you, not necessarily binding you to anything, but just hearing more what the public had to think about them or the questions that were raised. One of them you heard was that they were curious about what the relative costs would be of leasing versus buying. I was not able to go to their meeting. I did watch the video of it, and there were two other comments that I noticed. One is the staff report mentions the extraordinary costs that these have incurred, or the district has incurred due to the unexpected repairs that were needed on this. They were interested in knowing how that compares to the normal yearly maintenance, for which there was not readily a number available. So I don't know if that number is of interest to you also. I would think it might be. And then the other question they asked was about how these vehicles are depreciated in the district's accounting. And I think there was some confusion from when I watched the video. I think the question was whether these were fully depreciated in the sense that the useful life had come to its end, and the district manager's comment was they're actually depreciated over 10 years. And there is an attachment to your staff report that's supposed to show the last 5 years. But I think if you look at that, you'll find that the most recent 2 years are missing from that report. But I am just relaying the input that I saw from them.
Thank you for your comment, and that's something that we should follow up on, make sure that's all, kosher. So where does that leave us here? I mean,
I'll make a motion to accept the cost of the vehicle plus the extended warranty for 5 years. And then you can negotiate the warranty based on what you think, 3 years versus 5. I think it's a worthwhile endeavor for us. We have to have it. We're going to have 3 trucks available, right? One's on standby in case we need it, in case one goes down.
Right.
And we can continue with the 67% or more, probably.
Or more, yes, correct.
And I think at our study session, having Joel speak to us and
Yeah.
Right.
talking about the person he knew that was killed by one of these things,
Right.
based on some of the same issues we're having, I wholeheartedly agree with moving forward. And I think, Scott, you had mentioned that if we order it before the end of the year,
Yes.
we're going to be able to get this thing operational quicker.
Yes, if you approve tonight, we can get a purchase order out tomorrow.
Yeah. And not only that, we have the space to put it
Correct.
now.
any other comments?
Yeah, I have one. We have a number in here for when we are using the National Plant Services to clean our system. And it, it's $196,000. That really is an incorrect number. They did not, they were not following the guidelines or the cleaning frequency, that we have envisioned that we needed to get the SSOs down. Basically, they were not, the agencies had not learned yet how to give them proper direction. They clean much faster than we clean, and they use different equipment, and they didn't clean as well. So I think the whole industry is starting to catch up with them, and if we went out and asked them to do the job and specified them doing the job in an appropriate manner, equivalent to what our crews do, the cost would be significantly more because they would have to go significantly slower. They would have to use, and they would have to videotape, and we'd have to look at what their stuff was. It's very hard to control the sewer cleaning contractors. I was in charge of that at Orange County Sand District, and staff were dismayed. And they said, "Well, you get what you don't get what you expect, you get what you inspect." And we didn't have the proper means of inspecting what they were doing, and so we began to ramp that up. The waste discharge requirements have significantly improved the necessity, to oversee the contractor and make them do the work in a different way. So if we went outside and looked at the private contractor costs comparable to how our crews clean, they would be significantly higher than we were paying that contractor back then. And they weren't doing, and they weren't as efficient or effective.
Okay, any other questions or comments? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Great, thank you.
Okay. Budget appropriation and transfer for the 75th anniversary activities.
Thank you, Mr. President. So as you know, 2019 will be the district's 75th anniversary since the voters approved incorporation in 1944. The board established an ad hoc 75th anniversary committee consisting of Secretary Schaefer and Director Perry to discuss and plan activities throughout the year to celebrate this momentum occasion. The committee had its first meeting on November 27th, and during that meeting we had several discussions on some activities. One of the activities we're considering is putting advertising in the movie theaters at Triangle Square. As you see in your staff report, we did contact the theater and got some estimates for it to run a video. It would cost $7,500 for 32 weeks. If we want to change those videos, it's $450 each advertisement. You also, the committee will be considering a logo for the anniversary. In fact, you have all those sample logos before you. And this was like a friendly competition that we used back in the 70th anniversary, which is a company called Logo Sauce, and they facilitate a design contest among logo designers. And so they tell them what hey, we're saying, hey, we're looking for a 75th anniversary design, and the one we select, we'll give you $500. And for $100, Logo Sauce will administer the contest, and this is what we got so far. As you can see, it's quite a bit. And tomorrow the committee will be discussing these logos and making a recommendation. But as we do that, as you know, even though the 75th anniversary planning is in our strategic plan, unfortunately we didn't have budgeted for these activities. So that's why we're bringing this item for you tonight. And staff is recommending the board approve appropriating $15,000 for this fiscal year, so that will cover expenses from January through June of 2019. And then in the new budget, when you adopt the new budget, we'll put another $10,000 in there to handle expenses from July through December. So tonight, because there's nothing budgeted for these expenses, we're recommending that the board approve the appropriation of $7,500 from the solid waste fund, and you can see the accounts in your staff report, as well as $7,500 from the liquid waste or the wastewater fund, and you can see those accounts as well. So staff is recommending the approval of appropriating and transferring $15,000 for the district's 75th anniversary activities.
I'll move for approval.
I'll second.
Is there, as we go along, if we found a need to put more money in it, we could have it available?
Well, if we go over $15,000, we probably have to come back to the board again and ask for more money. Yeah.
I'm looking at these totals. I think we can live within these amounts. It could be even lower based on, the research I've done.
One comment too, don't forget that our trash trucks will be putting some kind of logo.
Right.
And when we're looking at this, you should think about what really stands out, to be on there, because.
But we don't have to pay for
we
that,
don't pay
though.
for
Yeah,
that.
CNR
That's
does
the
that.
point I'm trying to make.
Right.
That's important, that we don't pay for that. But at the same time, we might consider banners. And if you do, that's gonna take some, just
Yeah.
across Main, like Harbor Boulevard or some places like that.
Yeah, I figure with the committee we meet tomorrow for our second
Yeah.
meeting, and I think we can, because we let there's two members of the CAC on the committee, and we let them give their input too, what they think. So we'll come back, we're not going to decide on the thing tonight.
Yeah.
We'll let the committee decide that and come back, if that's okay with the board.
And we're also looking for someone to represent the city,
Yes.
so that we can communicate back and forth.
Did we ask them, Scott, already for a representative?
Yes, we did. And the city manager, or interim city manager, brought that forward to Mayor Foley, and we're waiting for Mayor Foley to make an appointment.
Okay. Yeah, I don't think they've done the appointments with the whole new city council yet. I think they've submitted their request, but they haven't made the appointments yet. But hopefully we get from that would help us
Yeah.
down the, the long run.
Now, when you say the part that let them see what they think,
Yeah, we'll all decide.
then we will all, they'll recommend to us, right?
Is that the right protocol? They recommend back to the board, or do we want to start rolling?
With the logo?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's up to you. If you want to start rolling, then my suggestion is let the committee make that decision. Otherwise, if we take it to the board, I mean, we could bring it back in your study session on the 9th,
Yeah, that'd be okay.
which is fine.
Yeah, that'd be
We can do that.
okay.
We don't mind taking action on a study session.
Maybe tomorrow we could come down to the top 3 or something and
Sure.
let the board make the decision on the night.
The only one I have a problem with is this one right here,
Which one?
this one. It looks like the Dodger Stadium scoreboard.
Well, at least they have runs on the board.
Yeah, at least they have runs on the board.
7 and 5. I think that's a good way to go. Let the committee look at it tomorrow and come back to the board on the 9th for approval.
My only input is what Scott said, if it's cost $7,500 to put a video in the theater that, for a couple of weeks, that,
No, it's not, that's 32 weeks.
Oh,
And there's
32
9
weeks.
theaters, that's like,
Oh.
how many? It's like 15,000 people.
Actually, it might be.
I misunderstood that.
No, there's 9 theaters that they put it on, and that we could leave one going the whole time, but I thought if we did it quarterly, because we have different things happening
Yeah,
throughout the year,
okay.
and now it's only $450 to make the switch, I think it's
Yeah.
wise. And
No.
I don't know what the totals are, because Nabila's been working on it, and she'll give us the update tomorrow, because I don't know the update
I
yet.
would
Okay.
just hate to see you eat up half your budget on videos that are, I think we're getting a bigger bang for that 15,000 by a broader distribution. I don't know.
Well-
I don't go to the movies, so I,
I go, and I see, and every time I go, during this last election, there was, Katrina Foley had her thing going. In the videos, in the presentations, either 15 seconds or 30 seconds.
John
So
knows
it's
that too.
a big impact for those citizens.
Okay.
I mean, I think, but,
Okay.
I mean, we haven't made that decision yet, but that's one of the
Yeah.
things talking about.
Okay, I misunderstood. So.
Okay, so you'll get back to us on that.
Yeah, we'll meet tomorrow at 9:30.
Okay, let's move along.
We need action on this because
I made approval already, and Arlene
Oh, I'm
seconded it.
sorry. Been moved and seconded. Any objections? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Okay, engineers report.
He's
Take that,
absent.
Scott?
Thank you, Mr. President. Unfortunately, our district engineer is ill, but if you have any questions on any of the capital improvement projects, I'll do my best to try to answer your questions.
Anybody have a question for?
I only have an input, maybe a request. There were 2 new projects showed up on the list that we had agreed to in the budget 2 years ago. And without a master plan and a periodic report on the capital improvement projects, I had forgotten we had done that 2 years ago and I would appreciate being reminded if something is that old, or there needs to be some way, for me not to be surprised that the 2 new projects show up. Yeah.
Well, sometimes we have carryover, from.
No, yeah, but I mean, these were 2 completely new projects. I think one was an evaluation of the force mains, and one of them, I forget. Anyway, Scott, if you would just, I would appreciate a reminder of what we did in the budget, when we're going to start the project.
Okay.
I think Mike might have known we were doing all this, but
no, believe me, I didn't. I didn't notice the changes that you did, but you're the engineer.
Okay, Scott, you'll advise us on that.
Yes.
Treasurer's report. Mark?
Nothing this evening, Mr. President.
Okay, well, have a Merry Christmas. Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to apologize in advance. I did a couple of ordinances before I went on vacation for the CAC to review, and I should have given it a final review after I got back from vacation. ended up getting agendized and probably shouldn't have. But one of them's probably good enough to go forward. The other one is not. It's ordinance number 123, Rosenberg's Rules of Order. We've got some comments from Mr. Mosher. There's a couple of typos and another suggestion. I have fixed those typos, and those are before you in a new draft ordinance. But he had some other philosophical comments that he'll probably want to comment on, and I would just add that this was meant to simplify your life and make it easier for you to conduct your business. Rosenberg's takes it from Robert's 700-plus pages. It's been around for more than 100 years and distills it down to just a handful, I think 7 pages. And there's even a little cheat sheet for that. It's just meant to be a handy guide for you. It's not an end-all for every issue you're going to have. And as we have written our ordinance presently, and the way it's proposed is it's a non-binding guide. So, there's going to be some situations it doesn't fit. You have a due process hearing. Neither one of these rules is going to work for you. You have to conduct a hearing. And we'll know when is appropriate to do which. Otherwise, Mr. Mosher has some comments about some things he likes and doesn't like about it, and maybe he should present that to you. But I think it's ready to go if you were to choose to adopt Rosenberg's as a simpler guide as in the amended ordinance before you. If you have any questions, I'm happy to
Any questions about?
answer.
Well, actually, I'll direct it to Alan, but this memo that we got from Nolani emailed to Scott on jurisdictions that follow Rosenberg's. To me, if Rio Del can do it, we should do it. I don't even know where Rio Del is, but my question, though, was really, so the ones on the left still follow Roberts. The ones in the middle are now with Rosenberg's. Riverside, Napa, and Torrance don't use either of those?
They created their own.
They did. Maybe that explains a lot about Riverside, but it seems like there's a groundswell of agencies going to a more simplified version. So, and I think it's indicative of what you see here. So,
Hundreds have gone to it since it was adopted in 2011, so it pretty well is the trend.
okay.
Well, the one good thing is it's unbinding. So to me, that makes a difference. Otherwise, I kind of wonder about it.
Jim Mosher, you had a comment on this item, I think.
Thank you again, President Ferryman and members of the board. Just to be brief, I was a little bit disappointed on both these ordinances with their review by that I saw in the video of the Citizens Advisory Committee. The first ordinance you asked them to look at was the one I think had number before this, 122, had to do with rules about solid waste collection, and they read through that carefully and had a number of suggestions about it. These I think they, for some reason, were not very engaged in. And I'm especially surprised about this one because I think this is a very positive change. I had wished they had asked about the context where this is. This is just in a paragraph where you set out your rules. For parliamentary matters, it's part of a bigger section 301 in your operations code that kind of sets out your own rules that override whatever this section says anyway about the general conduct of the meetings. And obviously not a whole lot of people from the public come to your meetings, and perhaps that rules of how you conduct the meeting, not just the parliamentary rules, but the general way that you interact with the public might be improved. And I would perhaps at some time, I guess my comment is, of the things you ask them to do is perhaps ask them to try attending some of your meetings and see how that section, the 301, could be improved so that it would be more inviting to them. That's my comment. Thank you.
Again, one of the disappointments I think the CAC kind of ties to what Mr. Mosher said. I would have expected some of them to attend our meetings. and they don't. We're asking a lot for them to take the time once a month to meet, I understand that. But I agree, I would have thought they would have had more discussion, because the discussion on this last week was tantamount to nothing.
Well, Mr. President, or Director, yes, Director, maybe it is a good time to do the refresher of the handbook, because I do believe the handbook says that this CAC members are obligated to attend at least one board meeting. So maybe we need to remind them that.
And Mr. President, could I just add that there could be a Brown Act complication with, a few of them attending. I don't know how many would attend, but I guess as long as it's under a quorum, that might be all right. But
I think the attendance, for their regular meetings is fine, isn't it? I mean, the people show up.
Yes.
For the committee,
This meeting.
talking about.
They were required to attend at least one meeting
Yeah,
a
I
year
know.
of our meeting.
Right.
Well, could we post, if we knew that there was going to be more than two, post that as a meeting for them?
Yes.
If we knew that in advance.
if there's going to be a quorum, sure.
Right.
Well, aren't there 10 members of that, 10 members of the CAC, or 10 or 12? 11? So 6 of them would have to attend before there'd be a conflict okay. Well, we haven't had that problem.
Yeah. Well, maybe with the minutes, I'm sure you get the minutes, right? And at the end of the minutes, just say the board meeting scheduled at, and put down the dates and see what happens. Sometimes, because it could be they don't even know when we're meeting, truthfully.
Yeah.
And I would, to tag that, even coming to a study session would be good enough for
Sure.
me, because we're essentially talking about the same things.
Absolutely. Study and board.
So what action do we need to take here on the,
Motion to approve the ordinance as amended.
I'll make that motion to adopt ordinance number 123 with the changes that were indicated.
Second.
no, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3.
That's the number of the ordinance, 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I see, yeah, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Let Rio Dell know that we've been out.
Local meetings.
Actually, on ordinance number 124, Mr. President? The next one.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Purchasing.
sorry.
I just wanted to, again, apologize, and that ordinance is not ready to go tonight. Some of Mr. Mosher's comments are well taken. The ordinance needs more work, and we'll bring it back to you.
Do we need a motion to continue?
Well, you don't have to, but, yeah, just don't act on it.
Okay.
Staff has to pull it.
Okay, we'll move along and see that at a later date. Local meetings, Orange County Sand District. It was an interesting meeting. Jim Colson, who worked for Orange County Sand District for 30 years, actually didn't retire. He went to work for IRWD. And he's very well thought of in the industry, and he's done a heck of a job. I've been back to Washington, D.C. with him, in a lobbying mode, and he's just right on top of things, and he'll be sorely missed, but it's an opportunity for him. IRWD's got more money than God, and he's going to get some of it. So. And then Ed Torres, who has been with the district for 25 years. He's retiring. And once again, this guy is just a pool of knowledge, and he's going to be missed too. Between the two of them, it's like 60 years of experience in upper management, so
Wow.
you're taking a hit there. And then we had an election for the vice president, and John Withers won unanimously.
Really?
So we're happy to hear that. And
What's his title?
Vice President of Orange County Sand.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Didn't the previous vice president not win re-election or something?
No.
Is that
Right,
what it
Greg Seaborn.
The current president.
He was the
Did
president.
you say vice?
Oh, the
He was the
He was the
president.
president.
Oh,
And he's done a heck of a job. I mean, you know, he's been on the board for 6 years, and the guy's really with it and
Yeah,
proactive.
And Mike, I think he has an engineering background.
no wonder.
So, anyway, from that respect, but they've already gone out in the, you know, the HR department, and they think they've nailed down one very good prospect. I think his name was Bob, that's not it. Let's see, was that all there was? Also, I had an OCOG meeting at the end of November, and the only thing of significance that was discussed there was they're going to do the General Assembly again at the Disneyland Hotel, which I didn't particularly care for as a venue, but
Parking is so bad.
parking is bad. But at any rate, that's where they're going to have it, and it's going to be April 12th, and the next meeting date for OCOG is January 24th. That's all I have.
No meeting today.
Okay.
It was last month, which I gave the report on.
Arlene?
We met, I met in CSDA on the legislation committee, and we kind of firmed up the year and what it was like, and put up some decisions on what we're going to do for next year and what's really important for all special districts of Orange County. And it was a good meeting. And then we met again, I should say, the next meeting I went up to Sacramento on was the board meeting, CSDA. And that's when we kind of reestablished the new ones that got elected and different people that had committees reports. And let's see, what else was there? And then that was about it, aside from that I was elected to the ISDOC as second vice president. So
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Is that a 2-year term or a 1-year
It's a-
term?
I think it's a one,
No, it's
two?
2 years.
2?
Oh,
So you'll move up to first vice president and then
I don't know.
president.
I don't know.
Who's the president?
Sandra Jacobs.
Sandra Jacobs,
and
yeah.
Margarita.
Yeah, and then ISDOC will be meeting in, let's see, January again. It's the second meeting, which will be the 8th, January 8th. And
What
then-
time do you guys meet?
Because the first is.
7:30.
Yeah, we meet early in the morning.
Are you still on this, Doc, Mike?
I am the ISDOC representative to OCOG,
Okay.
and so, yeah, I'm not on the executive board,
Okay.
but I'm one of the reporting, whatever they call it.
Where does the past president move to? Does he still have a past president seat, or does he
No,
just
he-
move to the,
He's
No.
just a former president.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm off the executive committee now.
okay.
But is
Jim Fissler is the,
is
That's what I
Fissler
meant.
still the,
he's still on the
Yeah,
board. as
he's-
Executive.
That's what I
he's
meant,
still
I was just curious,
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
he's still on. So,
At the last ISDOC meeting, I will tell you all that Mr., the director from Yorba Linda, Al,
Oh, yeah, Al.
it got a little testy again because he is still pushing for the LAFCO rates to be changed. He made some, I personally think he made some pretty compelling points. And he got a lot of pushback from the representative from IRWD, the representative from Santa Margarita, and he's getting a lot of pushback on, and he got a lot of pushback from the president, who's from Mesa Water. We have not heard the last of that. He's gonna still push for this
Well, we
LAFCO.
also got a letter that from him, and he sent it to all the different special districts.
He did, and and Mr. Pfister was not happy over the fact that,
Yeah.
that he sent that letter to all the presidents.
Well, what are the present dues? I mean, they're not much.
Well, Scott, you know, you can explain, it's,
The sad part is Irvine should have a certain amount. Well, we have to take care of them.
it doesn't, he wants it to go more to a per capita
Yeah.
type
Yeah,
thing.
instead of what it
And-
Well,
and the
I'm
big
not,
loser-
I'm not asking that question. I'm saying, what are the present dues?
I don't know what our present dues are.
I mean, they're not
No, we
much.
pay a disproportionate
Yeah.
amount higher.
No, I
It's
know.
like $5,600 or something.
More than that.
Is it?
It's
For
like-
us?
It's in the 20,000.
Yeah,
And Irvine Ranch doesn't pay much more than we do,
yeah,
but they have. a
They pay the
budget.
same.
They pay the
They pay the same amount.
yeah,
That's right, yeah.
very unfair.
And if you look at what, and I apologize for his name again, but Al, if you look at what he's proposing, the big hits are gonna be to MoDOC, to Orange County Water District,
Santa Margarita Water
Santa
District.
Margarita, Irvine Ranch, Mesa Water. I mean, they're gonna see their LAFCO dues.
Not Mesa Water, but,
Yeah, it shouldn't be Mesa Water.
Mesa Water had a pretty hefty, but they're not the big,
no.
one of the big, it's MoDOC, Metropolitan Water District, Orange County.
Molten
and-
Water
and
District,
County, and
Molten-
Molten Miguel.
Molten Miguel.
But Irvine Ranch would take a huge increase in their.
Would
LAFCO.
Bodox, would Orange County Water District, you know, the larger agencies, yes.
So they're really crying the hardest.
They're pushing them back the hardest.
So what do you think's going to happen, Scott?
We're waiting to see what LAFCO does. I think they're waiting to find out from their council if they were illegally charging districts disproportionately. So they're waiting to hear a review from their district council.
Carolyn was just looking into it.
Yeah, and the other issue was, there's a committee, the select committee from ISDOC. Nobody knows who makes up that committee. Traditionally, it had been, one of the guys from, El Toro, not El Toro, but one of the districts down south and a couple of, well, they're no longer, I think one of them has passed away, but nobody knows who the select ISDOC committee is, who should be chairing this discussion. So that's gotta be worked out. And my guess is the select committee will be made up of MoDOC, Irvine Ranch, and Santa Margarita, but we'll see.
It should be that.
Okay, Mike, anything on risk management?
We did not meet in December, Mr. President. I have my first board meeting on January 9th, so I'll have a report next month.
Other meetings that we need to consider reimbursement for?
Yes. Okay, I think you and I and Mike and Bob attended Waco.
Oh, yeah.
And just a couple things. Jim Atkinson was appointed the new chair for Waco. And then Kathy Green is going to be the vice chair, which is pretty good. And then the Met report was done by Larry Dick, and he says right now they have a naming committee for the different facilities. And they're voting on how they're going to handle the Sepulveda feeder. And they're looking into the aging infrastructure repairs. And then we had a guest speaker, Dave Egerton, but I took no notes because he just talked about his background in the field.
He's the new chair,
He's the new chair
CEO
of Aqua. He was the main speaker. So Bob may have taken notes, but I took none because he went so fast and he was just talking about his background. It didn't really relate to us at all. So that's the first time I didn't really take any minutes.
Notes, and I didn't even bring them, sorry.
Well, you weren't there, I don't think. You were.
So what-
Oh, she was there.
Oh, okay, maybe you're right. Okay, sorry. I thought you were on that time.
I sat right here.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, did you take notes?
He was
Go
not
ahead
the
then.
most effective speaker they've ever had.
No.
Okay, is that it for meetings? Everybody's covered that? Oral communications and director comments.
I wanted to make a comment. I just wanted to say that Bruce Mattern, some of you knew, passed away. He was the public services director for the city, so it's kind of sad. And then the other thing, the good news is that my grandson just got hired by the Costa Mesa Fire Department.
Oh, Costa Mesa Fire Department?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
So he's, of course, he has to have 6 months of probation now and go through the test. He's gone through one whole year intensive stuff. So he made it through.
That's good.
So there was hundreds that went for it, so it was a big thing. I'm proud.
Well, you know, I gotta say something about our fire department, because, in a 100-foot pine tree in front of my house over the last week, we've had a cat living up there meowing. And we actually got the fire department to come out and bring out the big thing, and they made a couple of runs at it, and he'd go up the tree, you know, and then they made him move. But you couldn't believe it. It was like people stopping in the street, and it was, I was gonna start selling hot dogs.
There go the Perrymans again.
But, hey, but I'll tell you, the fire department was just professional, and really, they really wanted to help. So it was good to see that.
Is the cat still there?
Yeah, nobody bothered to ask that.
The
Yeah.
cat's down, and my next door neighbor's gonna nurse it back to health, I guess.
Yeah, I have a comment, Mr. President. Thank you, all four of you and staff for the nice plaque. I mean, I don't deserve that. There's a lot of really good knowledge that sits up here, and I want to thank you for supporting me and making me look good. Staff, Nolani, Gina, Caitlin, Mark, Alan, Scott, Diana, you guys are the jewel of this district, all of you combined, and thanks for making me look somewhat good. I thank you all for your support. I'll miss agenda review, but because that's when you really learn good stuff, you know. So thank you all for your support, and just happy holidays, no matter which holiday you celebrate. Happy holidays to everybody.
Thank you.
All right, good job, Mike.
No, you earned it, man. You did an admirable job.
We had some.
It's a
we had
job
some, issues.
I wasn't interested in.
Oh, I had a comment. We had a little disconnect with the checks. Have I received the check for last month?
Oh, did you have a problem too?
Yeah.
What do you think happened, Tran?
Well, they said that, your check was so big that.
No, it wasn't. They said it wasn't,
Blow up the
it wasn't acceptable to
Blow
send
up
it back
the
to the
account.
maker. So what happened, do you know? Tran? Or Mark?
Sure. The two of you receive manual checks. The rest of you receive electronic checks. And that particular check run, the two that received manual checks were not recognized by the bank. So the bank did the right thing, and they rejected them. And so the checks have since been reissued. It would be great if the two that received manual checks would want to switch to electronic checks, so this issue wouldn't happen in the future.
No,
I
I wouldn't.
have my wife is happy not doing that. And there's an old saying, happy wife, happy life.
So do you think we'll have that same problem in the future?
No, you shouldn't.
Okay.
Just Uten can write you a check if yours do.
Yeah, that's why I went to him for a loan.
Okay, any other oral communications? If not, we're gonna head into closed session, and,
Jim, before we go to closed session, Alan, do we need to do anything with this memo?
no, he passed it out, and we all read it.
Yeah.
Mr. President,
That's
if we
for
could just say significant exposure to litigation pursuant to paragraph
Oh, I see.
2 of subdivision D of section 54956.9, one case, and we have, pursuant to that section, we are required to disclose the threat of litigation, and there's various ways you can do it, and what we have done is disclosed and made part of the record a contemporaneous memorialization of the threat made to an employee, namely our general manager, and that you have a redacted copy of that can be made as part of the record to justify us going into closed session.
Okay.
Does this become part of the minutes of the meeting?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so at this time, we will go into closed session, and conduct our business. Open session open, and no action was taken. No action was provided.
Direction.
Direction was provided.
Oh, okay. No direction was provided. Okay, this meeting is officially over.
Good job.